Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello students, this is Professor Ravin Zugade from Department of Chemistry, Rashtrasanta Tukadoji Maharaj, Nagpur University, and we were discussing about crystal field theory. In previous 3 lectures, we have discussed various aspects of crystal field theory, and this is the 4th and the last lecture on crystal field theory. In previous 3 lectures of this module, we have discussed various aspects of crystal field theory, including the splitting of the d orbitals and application of crystal field theory to describe the magnetic properties and John Taylor distortion. Now in this lecture, which is the last lecture of this module, we will be discussing about absorption spectra of complexes in terms of crystal field theory and some typical questions based on explanation of various properties of the complex on the basis of CFT. Now we know that the absorption spectra of complexes, we have discussed some aspects of this in case of the transition series elements. Now we know that complexes are generally colored in nature, and the color of the complexes is because of absorption in the visible region of the spectrum. And we have also discussed that the colors which are shown over here are complementary color of each other, and if a particular color or particular wavelength from the visible region of the spectrum is absorbed, its complementary color is observed. For example, if the absorption wavelength range is 400 to 335 nanometer, in such case the color absorbed will be violet and the substance will appear yellowish green to our eyes. This is how what is called as the complementary color theory explains all the colors of various compounds. Also, we have discussed various types of transitions taking place in molecules. There are electronic transitions which lead to large energy difference between the excited state and ground state of molecules. There are vibrational transitions between the vibrational energy levels and rotational transitions between various rotational energy levels. And out of that, we have seen that the electronic transitions require large amount of energy, and hence absorption takes place in either UV or visible region of the spectrum. Vibrational transitions take place in IR region of the spectrum, while rotational transitions take place in the microwave region of the spectrum. Now, in case of electronic transition, the absorption can be in the UV region or visible region. If the electronic energy levels are separated by a small energy gap, then transitions will take place in the visible region. If the energy gap between the ground state and excited state is large, then the absorption will take place in the UV region of the spectrum. Now, in case of d block elements forming various complexes, if the central metal ion is isolated or free, then all the 5 d orbitals are degenerate. And we have seen that DD transition is not possible if all the 5 degenerate orbitals are there. But according to crystal field theory, there is splitting of d orbitals depending on the number of ligands and the strength of the ligands. So suppose a complex is formed with octahedral geometry. So in octahedral crystal field, there is a splitting of d orbitals with 3 low energy T2g orbitals and 2 high energy Eg set of orbitals. If there is an electron present in T2g orbital and if there is a vacancy in the Eg set of orbitals, then this electron can absorb energy from the radiation and can undergo excitation to higher Eg set of orbitals. So this T2g to Eg set of orbitals, this excitation requires energy which corresponds to visible region of the spectrum, and hence most of the complexes are colored in nature. This is the explanation of the color of the complex or absorption spectra of the complex on the basis of crystal field theory. And we have discussed in case of valence bond theory, valence bond theory could not explain the absorption spectra of the complexes, because according to valence bond theory all the 5 d orbitals are degenerate and such type of transition is not possible in the degenerate set of orbitals. We will discuss two important absorption spectra. First of them is TiH2O6 3 positive. Now this is the first complex with D1 system. Now this is the absorption spectra of this particular complex. If we observe this spectrum carefully, it extends from about 10,000 centimeter inverse to 30,000 centimeter inverse is the recording region, and the lambda max is about 500 nanometer or 20,000 centimeter inverse. On this axis we have plotted the epsilon or the intensity. Now let us discuss the properties of this spectrum in details. We will discuss the properties on 4 lines one by one. Let us discuss them. Consider the first part or first property of this spectrum is the position of the band. Now what is the position of the band? The position of the band is, if we see, there is a broad band with a lambda max value or maximum absorption wavelength at around 500 nanometer or 20,000 centimeter inverse. Now this 500 nanometer or 20,000 centimeter inverse approximately corresponds to an approximate energy of 240 kilojoule per mole. We know that energy is related with wavelength as E is equal to hc upon lambda. So if we put this value of lambda into that equation, what we get is 240 kilojoule per mole energy is absorbed corresponding to this particular wavelength, and this energy matches with the energy gap between T2G and EG set of orbitals. It clearly indicates that this energy has been absorbed from the visible region of the spectrum to excite electron from T2G set to EG set of orbitals, clearly indicating that this is a success of crystal field theory, which suggests that, or which postulates that, there is a splitting of d orbitals, and this is a clear evidence in the favor of crystal field theory that there is definitely a splitting of d orbitals, and DD transition is the transition which is responsible for this particular type of broad band or band which is observed in the absorption spectra of this particular complex. Coming to second important property is the intensity of the band. If we observe this intensity carefully, intensity of the band is expressed in terms of molar extinction coefficient. Molar extinction coefficient is defined as the absorbance which is shown by a solution of the complex having unit path length and unit concentration. So in case of this, the epsilon value is found to be approximately equal to 5. Now for most of the complexes or for most of the colored compounds, this value is of the order of 10 raised to power 4. Now this value is extremely small value. Now why the value of epsilon is very small is explained by a selection rule called as Laporte selection rule. Now according to Laporte selection rule, transition between two centrosymmetric orbitals is forbidden or spectroscopically not allowed. It means that the transition from T2G to EG is not allowed transition because both of them are centrosymmetric orbitals. Centrosymmetric orbitals are those orbitals which are symmetric about their center, and since this is an octahedral complex, it has a center of symmetry, and we represent the sets of orbitals as T2G and EG, where G stands for Girardet, meaning centrosymmetric set of orbitals. Hence, according to Laporte selection rule, this transition is not allowed, and hence this transition should not take place. But it is taking place is a clear evidence that something is wrong in this particular theory, and that is the important limitation of this theory. According to crystal field theory, if there is T2G and EG set of orbitals and if there is no overlapping of orbitals, such transition should not take place. But it is taking place with very low intensity, indicating that there is a small finite probability that the transition is taking place. And why the transition is taking place can be explained when we consider the mixing of atomic orbitals or orbitals of the metal and the ligand. That will be discussed whenever we will discuss about ligand field theory or the modified form of the crystal field theory. But for time being, we can keep in our mind that the intensity is very low because the transition is spectroscopically forbidden, and according to Laporte selection rule, G to G and U to U are forbidden transition, whereas G to U and U to G, that is centrosymmetric to centrosymmetric or anti-centrosymmetric to anti-centrosymmetric, are forbidden transition, while centrosymmetric set of orbitals to anti-centrosymmetric set of orbitals is allowed transition. Third important property of this band is the width of this band. You will find that if there is electronic transition, then electron will jump from lower energy orbital to higher energy orbital. But for that, the energy required is quantized, and as a result we should get a sharp single line peak. But what we are observing here is the broad band or a wide band. The wide band can be attributed to the fact that vibrational and rotational transitions are associated with the electronic transitions. Hence, whenever there is an electronic transition taking place from ground state to excited state, there are a large number of vibrational and rotational transitions taking place, and as a result, large number of energies are absorbed, and we get a broad type of band instead of a single sharp peak. Fourth important property of this band is the symmetry of the band. If we observe this band carefully, it is not a symmetrical band, but there is a small hump present in this region. Now, why a particular spectrum is showing a hump at a particular region? The reason lies in the fact that this T2G1 system, this is a D1 system, and hence unpaired electron is present or single electron is present in the T2G set of orbitals, and this jumps to EG set of orbitals whenever there is a electronic transition. Now T2G1 is an unsymmetrical ground state, and we have seen that whenever there is an unsymmetrical T2G or EG set, there is a John-Taylor type of distortion, and since there is a John-Taylor type of distortion, there is splitting of the d orbitals, further splitting of the T2G as well as EG set of orbitals. Now if there is a further splitting, this is an example of splitting where electrons are, or electron is definitely single, one electron is there which is present in T2G set of orbital, will definitely go to dxy orbital, and this electron can jump to either dx square minus y square like this, or it can jump to dz square. So there are two possible transitions, and since there are two possible transitions, two different wavelengths are absorbed. As a result, this band is actually overlapping of two different bands. Hence what we are observing is not a single band but two overlapping bands which are overlapping on each other, leading to formation of an unsymmetrical type of band, what we observe over here. Second important spectrum is the absorption spectrum of CuH2O6 2 positive. Now this is actually a D9 system. Again, if we observe the spectrum carefully, we can explain four important properties of this spectrum also. We'll discuss them one by one. Consider the position of the band. Now we can see that the lambda max is of the order of 800 nanometers, and it means that the amount of energy which is required is of the order of 12,000 centimeter inverse, and this corresponds to DD transition. But in case of this D9 system, we do not know which electron is undergoing excitation. Hence, there is a concept called as hole formalism. This hole formalism says that this D9 system is equivalent to one hole system, or it can be considered as a one hole system. The hole is most stable where electron is least. Now it means that whenever you have a D9 system, there are 9 electrons. Out of that, 6 are in the T2G set and 3 are in the EG set, whereas there is one vacancy in the EG set. This vacancy can be considered as a hole in the EG set, and hence this EG hole is capable of undergoing excitation from EG to T2G, because this hole is most stable in the EG set and it is least stable in T2G set, exactly opposite to what happens in case of an electron. Second aspect of this is the intensity of the band. Again, you will find the intensity of the band is very low, of the order of 15 only. This reason for this is again Laporte selection rule, and this is a forbidden transition, G to G transition, and hence the absorption spectrum is there, but the intensity is extremely low. Third aspect of this is the width of the band. Again, the band is wide because of vibrational and rotational transitions associated with the electronic transitions. Third aspect of the spectrum is the symmetry of the band. What is symmetry of the band? If we observe it carefully, again we will find a hump in this particular case. And if there is a hump, then there should be some reason. The reason for this is, if we see this configuration of copper 2 positive, it is a D9 system, and D9 system has T2G6 EG3 configuration. T2G6 is symmetrical distribution of electrons, but EG3 is unsymmetrical distribution of electrons. And we have seen that in case of unsymmetrically filled in EG set, there is a strong Jahn-Teller distortion. And because of this strong Jahn-Teller distortion, there is a further splitting of EG and T2G sets as shown over here. And as a result, there are three possible electronic excitations from here, or in other words, in terms of hole formalism, we can say that there is one hole in the EG system. The EG is having lower energy in terms of hole. As a result, there is a possibility that the hole can excite from dx square minus y square to dz square, or dx square minus y square to dxy, or dx square minus y square to dxz or dyz orbital. As a result, there are three different peaks or three different spectra, and all of them are overlapping on each other, leading to unsymmetrical type of band in hexaquo copper 2 complex. Now we will take up some typical questions based on the concept of crystal field theory. The first question is based on the calculation of crystal field stabilization energy. The crystal field splitting energy for TiH2O6 3 positive is 20,100 centimeter inverse. Calculate the crystal field stabilization energy for this complex. Now, whenever there is such type of question, the first thing we should do is we should write the electronic configuration of the central metal ion and find out the number of d electrons present. So TiH2O6 3 positive is an octahedral complex with Ti3 positive has D1 system, or it is a D1 system with one electron in the d orbital, and this electron will definitely occupy the T2G set of orbitals. This electron is in T2G set. As a result, there is a net stabilization of minus 2.5 delta or 2 by 5 delta O, that is equal to 0.4 into 1 electron, and there is no destabilization because there is no electron in the EG set. So 0.6 into 0 multiplied by the crystal field splitting energy, which is delta O, which is 20,100 centimeter inverse, which comes out to be minus 8,040 centimeter inverse. This is called as a crystal field stabilization energy, whereas 20,100 centimeter inverse is the crystal field splitting energy. Second question is the value of delta O for CrH2O6 3 positive is 17,400 centimeter inverse. Calculate the crystal field stabilization energy for this complex in kilojoule per mole. Now again, the question is based on calculation of CFAC, but the calculation should be in terms of kilojoule per mole. Let us see how to start. Again, we will start with writing electronic configuration of Cr3 positive, which is having D3 system. So number of d electrons are 3. The given value of delta O, which is crystal field splitting energy, is 17,400 centimeter inverse. So if we write the electronic configuration in terms of T2G and EG, there are 3 electrons in T2G set, no electron in EG set. As a result, the crystal field stabilization energy can be calculated as minus of 0.4 times into number of electrons 3 plus 0.6 times number of electrons 0 multiplied by the value of delta O, that is minus 2 by 5 delta O into number of electrons, that is coming out to be minus 20,880 centimeter inverse. This is in terms of centimeter inverse. Now the question asked is in terms of kilojoule per mole. So we have to convert this centimeter inverse into kilojoule per mole, and we know that for this E is equal to Hc upon lambda, or E is equal to Hc into nu bar. Nu bar is the wave number which is obtained over here. So now we will put the value of Hc and nu bar from here. H is the Planck's constant, C is the velocity of light which is constant, which is known, and nu bar is obtained from here. Putting these values, what we get is crystal field stabilization energy in terms of joule per mole is minus 249,599, and which is approximately equal to minus 250 kilojoule per mole. This is the driving force for splitting of the d orbitals. Third numerical, the value of mean pairing energy and delta O for CONH363 positive are 21,000 centimeter inverse and 23,000 centimeter inverse respectively. Predict the spin state and calculate CFSE. Now again we will start writing the electronic configuration. Now if we say this is a cobalt 3 positive system and number of d electrons are 6. Now in case of d4, d5, d6 and d7, we have seen that there are two possible configurations, either low spin state or high spin state. Now in this particular case we can see that the mean pairing energy is 21,000 centimeter inverse and delta O is 23,000 centimeter inverse. Since delta O is higher than P, hence low spin complex is formed, and in low spin state the configuration can be shown like this, with all the 6 electrons occupying the T2G set of orbitals. So the configuration in terms of T2G and EG is T2G6, EG0. Hence the crystal field stabilization energy can be calculated as minus 2 by 5 delta O into 6 electrons plus 2 pairing energies, and this comes out to be minus 13,200 centimeter inverse. This is how we can calculate crystal field stabilization energy for various complexes. This is again a question based on the concept, which of the following complexes is diamagnetic according to CFT. Now what is a diamagnetic complex? We know that whenever all the electrons are paired up, the complex is said to be diamagnetic complex, and if there is unpaired electron, the complex is paramagnetic in nature. Now if we observe the 3 complexes which are given, this complex is having Fe2 positive, this is Fe3 positive, and this is again Fe2 positive. So the 3 metal, the electronic configurations of Fe, Fe2 positive and Fe3 positive can be shown like this. Fe2 positive is a D6 system, Fe3 positive is a D5 system. Now in this case, FeH2O6 2 positive. The difference between these two is the nature of the ligand. If we say this is H2O is a weak ligand, and whenever the ligand is weak, we know that the crystal field splitting is small and the complex is high spin in nature. Whereas if the ligand is strong, then the complex is low spin in nature. Now cyanide is one of the strongest known ligands. As a result, both of these will be low spin complexes, whereas FeH2O6 2 positive will be high spin complex. Now this is D6 high spin, means definitely there are unpaired electrons. So the configuration is T2G4 Eg2 with 4 unpaired electrons in this complex. Hence it is paramagnetic in nature. Coming to FeCN6 3 negative, it is a D5 low spin complex. So D5 low spin has 1 unpaired electron, and hence it is also paramagnetic in nature. Now coming to FeCN6 4 negative, this is a D6 low spin state. So all the electrons are paired in T2G orbital, and hence it is a diamagnetic type of complex. One more question. Which of the following configurations will lead to Jahn-Teller distortion? Now whenever we were discussing about this Jahn-Teller distortion, we said that Jahn-Teller distortion is observed if either T2G or EG set of orbitals is unsymmetrically filled. If both T2G and EG set of orbitals are symmetrically filled, then the Jahn-Teller distortion is not observed. Now let us see the first case, D3 system. Now D3 has only one possible configuration, that is T2G3 and EG0. Now we can see that both T2G and EG are symmetrically filled, and if they are symmetrically filled, it is a no distortion condition. Coming to D5 high spin state. Now in D5 high spin, T2G3 EG2 is the configuration. T2G is symmetrically filled with each orbital getting one electron. EG is also symmetrically filled with each orbital getting one electron, and hence this is also no distortion condition. Coming to D5 low spin state. Now in this case, EG is symmetrically filled with no electrons at all, but T2G is unsymmetrically filled. Now it is T2G5 system. Now T2G5 is unsymmetrical distribution, and as a result we can see that there are two electrons in two orbitals and one single electron in one of the orbitals, and hence there will be definitely Jahn-Teller distortion in this case, but it is a weak distortion condition because we know that the T2G orbitals are not directly facing the ligands, and hence the distortion is there, but it is a weak distortion. Coming to D8 configuration. Now D8 has only one probable configuration, that is T2G6 EG2. Now we can clearly see that T2G are symmetrically filled. Similarly, EG is also symmetrically filled, and hence it is a no distortion condition. Coming to D9 system. Now D9 is same as what we have observed or discussed when we discussed about the hexa-aquo copper complex for Jahn-Teller distortion. Now this is a condition where T2G is symmetrically filled, but EG is unsymmetrically filled with two electrons in one of the orbitals and one electron in one orbital. As a result, this is a strong distortion condition because EG is unsymmetrically filled. Now we know that EG orbitals have their lobes directly facing the ligand, and so their interaction with the ligand is very strong, and hence the distortion is very strong. So D9 is the strongest distortion condition we normally come across. One more question. The colors of NiH2O6 positive, NiNH362 positive and NiEN32 positive are green, blue and violet respectively. Explain. Let us see what is the difference between these three complexes. In all the three complexes we can see that Ni or nickel is in +2 oxidation state. So what is the difference? Difference is in the ligands. So nature of the ligand is the governing factor. Now in case of NiH2O6 positive, we can see that the crystal field splitting is like this, T2G and EG. Now H2O is a weak ligand, so splitting is less. As a result, the energy required for this transition from T2G to EG set of orbitals is small, and absorption takes place at 720 nanometer, and hence the complementary color, which is a green color, is observed. As a result, you will find that this NiH2O6 is a green colored complex. But when we go to NiNH362 positive, now ammonia is a stronger ligand in the spectrochemical series. Hence the crystal field splitting is larger. As a result, the energy required for transition is more. As a result, the wavelength which is absorbed is less, because we know that wavelength is inversely proportional to energy. Energy is inversely proportional to wavelength. E is equal to hc upon lambda. Hence the absorption takes place at 570 nanometer, and the complementary color, which is a blue color, is observed. Third complex, you have ethylene diamine ligand, or it is in IUPAC system we call it as ethane 1,2-diamine type of ligand. It is a bidentate ligand. It is a stronger ligand as compared to ammonia, and hence the crystal field splitting is still larger, and the energy required for transition from T2G to EG is larger. As a result, the absorption takes place at still lower wavelength with 545 nanometer, which leads to violet type of color to the complex. One more question, why crystal field splitting in tetrahedral complexes is much smaller as compared to octahedral complexes? We have already discussed this thing when dealing with the crystal field splitting in case of tetrahedral complexes. So we know that the number of the ligands are less, and also there is no face-to-face repulsion with the metal d orbitals and incoming ligands, because the ligands are approaching in between the three axes, whereas the lobes of the T2G set of orbitals, they lie in between the two axes. Which among the following complexes will form or will have zero crystal field stabilization energy? Now there are two cases we came across while calculating the CFSE, that if it is a D0 system, then definitely CFSE is 0, or D10 system CFSE is 0. Apart from that, if it is a D5 high spin complex, then CFSE is 0. If we see this, Ti3 positive is a D1 system, Mn2 positive is a D5 system, Cu2 positive is a D9 system, and CO2 positive is a D7 system. Among them, this Mn2 positive with H2O ligand, which is a weak ligand, so this complex is high spin D5 state, and since it is a D5 high spin octahedral complex, the distribution of electrons is like this. Since there are 3 electrons in the T2G and 2 electrons in EG, the calculated crystal field stabilization energy comes out to be 0. If we see this calculation, the CFSE value will come out to be 0 for this particular complex. Question. Explain magnetic properties of NiCl4 2 negative, NiCN4 2 negative and NiCO4 complexes on the basis of crystal field theory. Now there is a fundamental difference between all the three. If we see NiCl4 2 negative, it is a tetrahedral complex, NiCN4 2 negative is a square planar complex, and NiCO4 is again a tetrahedral geometry. Now the electronic configuration of Ni is 3d8-4s2, while Ni2 positive is 3d8-4s0. Now in first two complexes, nickel is present in +2 oxidation state, so they are D8 system. Whereas the third case, which is NiCO4, nickel is present in 0 oxidation state, that is, it is a 3d8-4s2 system. Now let us consider them one by one. In case of NiCl4 2 negative, since it is a tetrahedral complex, the splitting is like this: E orbitals with lower energy, T2 orbitals with higher energy, and since Cl is a weak ligand, as a result, and also the complex is a tetrahedral complex, so it is definitely high spin in nature with 2 unpaired electrons. When we come to NiCN4 2 negative, it is a square planar complex with the splitting of d orbitals like this, and if we see this, the electrons, 8 electrons are filled in this particular manner with dx square minus y square orbital as empty orbital. Coming to NiCO4, now in this case, carbonyl ligand is a very strong ligand. It makes these 2 electrons to pair up in the 3D subshell, thereby it is actually a 3D10 system, and the tetrahedral 3D10 system, all the orbitals are completely filled. Now if we observe the number of unpaired electrons, there are 2 unpaired electrons in NiCl4 2 negative, and hence it is paramagnetic in nature. The remaining 2 are diamagnetic in nature, since there is no unpaired electron. So to summarize this lecture, colors of the complexes are due to DD transitions. The DD transitions are spectroscopically forbidden according to Lavoie relation rule, and hence the intensity of these transitions or the colors is very low. Extent of splitting on strength of the ligand dependent, and hence color changes with change in ligand. This we have seen while solving a question also. The complexes of nickel with different ligands give different colors. Since electronic transition is accompanied by vibrational and rotational transition, the absorption bands are normally broad, and if there are more than one transitions possible, we can get overlapped type of spectra. So this is all about crystal field theory, its aspects. Thank you very much.